Hello, Arthur.
Hi,
What a
Krista. How are
momentous,
you?
what a
Nice to
momentous
see you.
year. What a momentous month. What a
Yeah,
momentous century. One of the many very strange aspects of this time we inhabit is that the word civility and actually the word healing, that these have become controversial. What does civility mean to you? What must civility be now?
you started off, I think, correctly. You said, civility has become controversial, and the reason is because we have this misbegotten idea that the mark of moral courage is showing sufficient outrage toward those with whom we disagree, and that's completely wrong. I mean, it might be a good thing to do, but the truth is that moral courage comes not from standing up to the people with whom you disagree. It comes from standing up to the people with whom you agree on behalf of those with whom you disagree. And that actually, for me, means it's true that civility is controversial, but it's controversial in the other direction. It's not that it's too weak because we should be more outraged. On the contrary, I just think it's too low a standard for good people, for people that actually want to build a good country and a better world. The truth is, if we want to make any gains, any progress, we need to take the 2,000-year-old transgressive injunction of willing the good of the others, even when we don't agree with them and even when we don't like them, because liking, as Martin Luther King one time said, to like is a sentimental something. We need the iron will of love. Do you agree?
I agree. I think the word civility is equated with niceness and politeness. And what is before us and what is alienating us from each other is serious and important. And politeness and niceness and tameness aren't big enough or serious enough to meet that.
Hmm.
Um, but that obscures the large question before us, which is how do we share life? And how do we recreate politics and civil society, which I don't think is a statement that I don't think a dissatisfaction with politics and civil society as they exist now is a statement or a question that is restricted to any side of our political spectrum. Maybe at the extreme ends, but most of us don't want to live this way. And reframing what civility should mean. I mean, for me, civility has got to mean that we accept and assume that there are significant, passionate differences between us.
And you made a point that I really agree with deeply just a second ago, which was that it's important that we hold on to passionate differences while being actually able to be civil to one another, or I would prefer to love one another. I mean, that's what the best relationships are able to do. You can actually be hammer and tongs with somebody forever and still love that person and still have a relationship with that person. The idea that we must agree my way or the highway, it's all or nothing. That way of thinking is actually destroying our society. And by the way, as a social scientist, I can tell you, it destroys marriages. It destroys friendships. This is the reason that 1 in 6 Americans have stopped talking to a family member or friend going back to the 2016 election and getting worse through the 2020 election. We can do a lot better, but it sort of raises the next question, doesn't it? Which is the how part. How do we, whether it's civility or love, how do we love our political foes?
I think that we possess deep intelligence on what love actually is about, how it actually works in life, that we don't apply in public life. And so I think actually the answer to this question is more readily at hand than we imagine. Martin Luther King Jr. was constantly criticized for talking about love. And he said, I am going to keep talking about love. And he said, I'm not talking about emotional bosh. I love that because that's mostly how that word is understood. I'm talking about a hard, demanding love.
Hmm.
So if I think about what are the ingredients of love that might apply to our public life, I think, what are the ingredients of love as we live it? And we know so many things about love that fly in the face of how we're behaving with each other right now. Love is so in our most intimate relationships, love is very often, perhaps most often, not about how we feel. It's about how we are present. It's about small routine actions. It's also not very often about feeling perfectly understood or perfectly understanding or agreeing with the other person. And it often means not talking about certain things right now. We apply emotional intelligence. And I think that a lack of emotional intelligence in our public life writ large is perhaps the most urgent thing that we have to rectify. And we have to rectify it whatever is happening in the White House or in Congress or in our media of choice that we're mad at. I'm very mad at my media of choice right now. But we can start behaving like grown-ups and modeling that for our children in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in the civil society, on the ground on which we stand. As I watch that map of our country on election night, the goal was to get to filling in every state with red or with blue. But what you saw as they pulled the camera out or in is that this is an illusion. There are no red states and blue states. Like, these lines of fracture run through all of our states. They run through our counties, and they run through our families. So the other side that we turn into a caricature is much closer than we think, and much more contradictory, and perhaps just as maddening as before.
So in just the little time that we've got left, Kirsta, let's see if we can make a suggestion for everybody watching us on the one thing they should not do at the Thanksgiving table that they might have done otherwise that would make things worse, such that they can leave the Thanksgiving table and the Thanksgiving dinner with things better. So what's the one thing to not do?
Well, what do you think? I want to hear your answer.
Well, my answer, actually, believe it or not, it actually comes from the brain science research on how people perceive each other. And, we have a million ways to read the emotions of other people, and most of it is not verbal. And when we perceive that somebody's treating us with contempt, with disdain, that's basically somebody saying to us, I hate you because you are worthless and what you're saying is worthless. The number one way that we convey that to others unintentionally, okay? And this is what John Gottman, who's one of the greatest marriage therapists ever, he says he can tell if a couple is going to be divorced within 5 years with something like 97% accuracy. You know what he's looking for? Eye rolling. It's the love killer. Why? Because it says, oh, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's a habit. Now, look, I have young adult children, so they roll their eyes so hard they're going to fall backwards in their chairs. But when somebody is your peer and owes you love, and you say something that you really believe and they roll their eyes, that kills the discourse, that kills the communication, that cuts the bonds of potential love that we're trying to foster. And so my very practical suggestion, it's just as practical as it can be, is vow to yourself that no matter what you hear, you will not be sarcastic, you will not be derisive, you will not be dismissive. And most of all, this Thanksgiving, it will be a no eye rolling zone. And if you make that commitment, Thanksgiving will be better and we'll make progress.
Yeah, I like that. I can't prove this, but I think it's true that no human being in history has ever changed because someone told them they were stupid. And we all need to confront the question in ourselves, of whether we want to keep being right or feeling like we're on the side of right, or whether we want things to change. And I don't think that's a partisan question. I don't think the vast majority of us, to me, the real silent majority, it's all of us on left of center, right of center, who don't want to pass on this way of being political to our children. I think the advice I have is pre-work to your no eye rolling. Ask questions that are really questions. Like, we are so skilled in this, our questions are arguments.
Yeah.
And we have preordained conclusions. And really being present, really creating that space for relationship, needs real curiosity. Like, when that conversation starts, are you really ready to be surprised? And if you are, that becomes a great adventure.
Kirsta, what a delight it's been to be with you. I hope that you have a happy and love-filled Thanksgiving. And I hope that together we can do this together again, and that we can bring more ideas and we can bring them into our own lives and the lives of others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arthur. It's wonderful to be with you.